Фолкера, я сделаю его очень коротким, мы уже переключаемся на английский. Вам отдельный респект, что вы там, да, для вас это не является проблемой, да, вы все пришли. Very brief presentation of Mr. Фолкер. He's pretty cool guy. Thanks you for willing to share your idea and future inspiring us. And let's welcome Фолкер and let's start.
Very good morning. It's a very rainy and pretty cold day today, and I'm not speaking your language, so there's like plenty of reasons to thank you for coming in. To listen to me, it's like, I find it always a little bit strange when I sit in there and I'm supposed to say something, but I like it. You know, interest of other people is never a bad thing. We have been thinking about what the subject for today could be, and we were trying to find something that is not just relevant for advertising people, and I think we've come up with something that might be really interesting to all of you, and it concerns something that you know, we call career planning. Having a career in not just advertising, anywhere. I mean, I see most of you are considerably younger than I am. I've just gone beyond 50 last year, and it's really interesting to work in advertising where everybody in the agency could be offspring, you know, could be a child of mine by age. They aren't. I don't do that, you know. But it's interesting because after more than 20 years in advertising, obviously, I've collected a little bit of experience in having a career. And what I'm trying to do this morning is telling you two stories. And actually, these two stories are about one and the same thing, me. And how I progressed in advertising. And it's really interesting because I've done this once before, and it's a little bit revealing about how you present yourself, and who you are, and what you do, and what you're good at, what you're not so good at, and what people expect to tell you about yourself, and what you can do and what you cannot do, and all of these things, and what you've done, especially. So here's my first story, which is sort of like the official story. I started in advertising in 1993. The first agency I went to was a place called Ogilvy and Mather Direct, which later turned into Ogilvy One. So for 10 years I was working at that place, and I learned everything there is to learn about direct marketing, and it was a great time because it was the first years of the internet, so we also had a little you know, digital group founded, and so for 10 years I was learning everything there needs to be learned about direct marketing and digital in the early stages. And then I said, oh man, I gotta learn some more, I gotta, you know, progress beyond direct marketing, and you know, I need to do some big brands and advertising, and I have to go somewhere else. So I joined Leo Burnett, and I was working on Marlboro, and I was working on Levi's, all of these huge consumer brands, and I was doing, you know, advertising that was all over town, big campaigns, yay. So, so for 1.5 years I was doing that, and then I said, okay, now I know everything there is to learn about big brands and managing these and doing out of home, and fine, so what do we do next? I said, okay, let's go to do shopper marketing, you know, all of the stuff that is called shopper marketing, which is point of sale, promotion and sales and things like that. Nobody really wants to do that, but actually it's a pretty interesting place. And if you really want to do, you know, like what people call the 360 degrees, you know, the totally integrated knowledge about communication and advertising, you walk into all of the single bits, and shopper marketing was really the thing that I still needed. So I went to Saatchi and Saatchi X, which is the shopper marketing place of Saatchi's, and did that for a while. And then I said, okay, now I've done direct, now I've done digital and advertising and POS, now I have to put it all together, you know. So I was looking for a great place where I could, you know, do all of this. And so I changed over to Publicis, huge French agency, and you know, they do everything. So I tried that, and after a while, I thought, oh man, I gotta have another experience and go somewhere else. So I went to Switzerland for Publicis, and so I started working abroad. Another great experience. And so now, you know, going from copywriter to creative director to executive creative director, and you know, today I have only 3 letters on my business card. Ooh, CCO, you know, it's like, oh, Chief Creative Officer. That sounds so cool. And I sort of like worked for 15 years, you know, to have these 3 letters on my business card, you know. It doesn't sound like it's a smart thing to work for this, but you know, advertising teaches you that, you know, the bigger the title is, the more respect you get from the client, you know. If I walk around as a creative director, you know, people say, oh man, I don't like this ad, can I talk to your boss? You know, I say, what do you mean, the boss? I'm the creative director, you know. I say, don't you have a CCO or something like that? You know, so you want to go there. So today, I'm working as a Chief Creative Officer at McCann Erickson in Istanbul, you know, so that's like 3 really cool things. You know, it's a great title, a great responsibility, it's a pretty good agency, McCann, you know, we are like all over the world. And yeah, Istanbul, you know, don't have to say much about Istanbul, great place. So that's the official version. You know, you would think, man, this is a cool guy, you know, he's going all over and he's, you know, learning all of these things, and, you know, his career has been going up always, and it's just fantastic. Well, now I'll tell you the other story. Reality. This is probably the most honest thing you'll ever hear from an advertising person. To tell you the truth, I have no education, you know, well, not no, you know, of course I went to school, you know, and I did finish school, and I finished school okay, you know, it was good enough to go to university and study psychology, which I tried for like 3 years, and, you know, at some point I was just sitting there and thinking, man, psychology is really interesting, you know, but I was trying to get into, you know, the psychology of marketing and advertising and all of that, and, you know, I said I was a little older, so that was in the mid-80s. There was basically no chance to get a job in that kind of field at that time, you know, it wasn't really well developed, so I was thinking, man, if I finish this university program and I'm walking out, I have to do something that I might not want to do, like do personnel or do, you know, something happening? No, I do something that I wouldn't want to do. So I said, I don't know, and you know, I've been living in poverty for 6 years, so I wanted to earn some money, and I wanted to do something that, you know, would give me a, you know, a different perspective. So I said, stop university. I'm going to be a flight attendant, a steward, you know. So I went to Lufthansa and I said, I want to be a flight attendant, you know. I want to walk around asking people whether they want tea or coffee. And actually the psychologist who was testing me whether I was a cool guy to do this, you know, he once actually told me during my interview, you know, you are studying psychology. You know, if you study psychology, you know, you are going to be, you know, a very smart person, and you're going to be an academic person, you're going to be, you know, something very well respected. If you take this job, you will be just a waiter in the air. Do you really want to do that? And I was sitting there and say, oh. Well, actually, if you ask me like that right now, do you want to be a psychology guy, you know, or do you want to be a waiter in the air? I would actually say I like the thing about, you know, being the waiter in the air. And he said, okay, you sound honest. Welcome to Lufthansa. So I was actually working for Lufthansa as a flight attendant for 5 years, flying around the planet, mostly on long haul, you know, so I was going, you know, Africa and Arabia and, you know, United States and Canada and all of these places, and it was a cool time. I was making good money, I was flying around the world, I was most of the time the only guy in the cabin, And, you know, even at Lufthansa, stewardesses are not so ugly. You know? Not that I took too much advantage of that, you know. The glamorous life of a flight attendant is not as, you know, promiscuous as most people think it is. So, but, you know, it was a great time. 5 years I did that. And then, you know, I found out that my head was really aching for something to do. You know, asking for tea or coffee or, you know, chicken or beef, you know, is not really that challenging, you know. And the good times, you know, they also have their other sides, like night flights all the time, and you're always tired and you're always between time zones. So I said, man, I got to do something for my head. And the funny thing is, at that point I realized that I had been writing all my life without ever even thinking that I could turn this into some sort of profession. You know, I was the editor of the school magazine, and while I was flying around the world, I was working as a freelance journalist for a little, you know, city magazine, talking about music and fashion and clubs and shopping for music and things like that. That was really nice. So I had a little portfolio of stuff that I had written, and I was looking for you know, something to do. So this guy says, you know, they're looking for a copywriter at Ogilvy. And, you know, so I went there, I put the thing on the desk, and the guy said, okay, you can write, and why don't you come work for us? And so I sort of slipped into advertising. Happened, you know, you work for an agency 2 or 3 years, and then you move on to the next agency, most of the time because you want more responsibility or because your salary is like not very good. So you sort of hop around. So it's like this, so I've changed agencies 6 times, and now comes the really, really dead honest part. I was asked to leave the agency 4 of those 6 times. So what looks like somebody that has this great career, you know, is actually someone that has been running into trouble every now and then. So I, you know, you call it fired or call it, I'm sorry, we have to let you go, or sorry, it's not working anymore, or something like that. 4 out of 6 times. That's not necessarily glamorous, you know, but that's honest. That's reality. That's actually what happens. That you go to a place and you find out that this is not the place that you should have been working for in the first place. You know, what looks really, really nice on paper for most of the CVs that you're going to see over the course of your life and your professional careers, they look good, yeah. And I would say that 90% of those are not very much different from mine on both sides. You know, they all look as nice as mine, but you know, the reality is always different from what it is. But we always tend to think that, you know, man, this looks nice, he's a cool guy, and this is like, looks like it has been planned from A to Z, you know, and I guarantee you it's not the case in most of the cases. It's not true. And actually, I found a little quote while I was preparing for what I'm going to do next when I go to the festival. There is a nice quote by a guy called Eisenhower, you know, one of the, President of the United States, a long time ago, and he said, "In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." So, what does that mean? What's the difference between having a plan and planning? You know, for me it's very, very, very simple. A plan is a straight line. Planning is making a map. So if you want to go from A to B, if you define a goal that you want to reach, you know, one of these days I want to be the Chief Creative Officer of McCann Istanbul, you know, you can either, you know, draw a straight line to that thing and say I need to do this and then 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 this, and then I will be there. Or you can say, I think I want to be there, but you know, fate might bring me some other place as well. One thing that I keep saying is, you know, I actually do like making plans. I like it so much that I make a new plan every day. So I wake up in the morning, I analyze, you know, what's my life like, where am I going, and maybe the plan I'm making in the morning is the same one I did yesterday morning, you know, but it's still a new plan. So it's like you just keep planning, you just keep looking and taking it step by step, and I never planned to go to Istanbul. And when I worked at Ogilvy, I never thought that I would ever end up at Saatchi's, you know. And actually, I never planned to be in advertising. So, you know, things just happen. And most of the times when I look back, when I was asked to leave an agency, it wasn't because I had fucked up or something like that. It was not because I was a lazy bum or something like that. I was working quite hard most of the time. Mostly it was because I was doing something that I believed in, really, if I look at it. You know, I was working in this one agency, I'm not going to say which one, and I found out while I was working there that the guy, my boss, you know, he was an asshole. You know, I'm sorry, I have to say it like that. He was just really a lying asshole. You know, he was one of the guys who would walk to some other guy, and you know, who was working for me, and I was sitting there present with him, and he said, "You know, Norbert, I really love you, man." He was American. You know, they speak about love quite easily. I love you, man, and you know, but you know, you gotta feed your head. You know, you gotta do something. You gotta go out to the clubs and find out what young people are doing, and you know, and look at Japanese design and things like that. You know, you gotta feed your head because I don't want to see you working in the sausage factory. And I was sitting like, did he just say that? That kind of guy. I love you, man. You know, you better do something, or I will send you out so you can work in the sausage factory. I was thinking, I don't think I want to take this, you know, but I had to. I had just joined the company, so I was taking my guys, and you know, I was trying to develop some sort of culture among our group. I was trying to develop a spirit. I was developing some sort of unity. I was trying to find a way of working with these guys that would be true to our natures or whatever, you know, and so we could do cool stuff. We could be you know, working not like Ward did, that's the name of the guy. To not lie to each other, to not be, you know, assholes. I wanted to have my tiny little asshole-free island within the agency. And I did create it, and it was working nice for a year. And then Ward said, I'm sorry, man, but you have to leave. You know, he wasn't sending me to the sausage factory because it was obvious that I wouldn't end up in the sausage factory. But he was asking me to leave because I was creating that little island of happiness in his group that was just running on pressure. You know, so was I sad when they sent me home? Not really. I was just taking my time looking for the next place, to be sure that I wouldn't do the same mistake again of going into an organization that wasn't really true to what I believe in, you know. And actually in advertising, that's a pretty tough journey sometimes, because advertising people are quite good at telling you something in a very positive way. Like, I can tell you all the positive things about my life and my career, and it looks really good on LinkedIn. But, you know, the reality is sometimes really, really different. And how do you plan for this? You know, what do you do? And I always tell my folks that, you know, you really, really got to take a very, very, very good look at the kind of organization that you are going to work for. You have to really look at who is your first boss if you go to a company for the first time, straight out of university. I was so incredibly lucky. You know, if I look back. One day I was looking back at my first 10 years at Ogilvy, you know, and I hadn't, you know, as I said, I never planned to be at Ogilvy in Frankfurt at a direct marketing place with that boss. You know, I was just sitting there, and actually I almost fucked up on my interview, you know. He brought me in, and I was sitting there, and he asked me, do you know what direct marketing is? I just you know, I was honest. You know, I said, I'm really, really damn sorry. I really don't know. And I was thinking, man, I'm out of here. So he said, so I'll tell you what direct marketing is. You know, we do mailings. You know, we do direct mail. We send people letters. At that time, we didn't do much digital. So, you know, we're about one-to-one communication. We do dialogue with the customers, you know. We don't do billboards, we don't do TVCs and radio and stuff. If you want to do TV, if you want to do radio, if you want to do print ads, if you want to do out of home, there's this other building on the other side of the street called Ogilvy and Mather. You can go there, you know, I can get you a date with the guys over there. But if you're okay to do direct marketing, as I defined it to you just now, you know, you're welcome to continue this interview. And I was thinking, I just got really lucky to not be sent home. And he was a nice guy. He was really nice. He just, you know, he wasn't offended. And so I said, no, okay. I want to know more. Tell me about direct marketing, you know. And actually 6 weeks later I was sitting in the office and writing my first direct marketing letter, which is pretty amazing actually. So I was completely lucky to run into the best possible first boss in my career. And I will probably say that part of the reason that I'm sitting here is due to the fact that my first boss was a very, very nice and very good person and a very good teacher. So I keep telling people, you know, look at who your boss is, what that person can give to you. Because that person is really defining your life as a professional. Actually, every boss that you run into is defining your life as a professional. Everything that I've done in the last 20 years has defined me as a person as well. The fact that I like to create a certain kind of environment in the agency that I work for is due to the fact that my first agency was Ogilvy. You know, I could have ended up in an evil place and I would probably be an evil person now. I don't know, you know. Probably not, but I would just have left. No, but it's really, really important. And actually, all of the evil guys that you run into, you also learn from, you know. So fucking up during your career is nothing spectacularly, you know, horrifying or something. You know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You just move on, you know. Actually, my shortest stay in an agency was 7 months. It's in my CV, it's on LinkedIn, I'm not lying about it, you know, I'm honest. I was in Hamburg, I was in an agency that didn't work out for me. You know, my partner I was supposed to be working with, you know, was out the third day into my new job. And suddenly there was some other people I was supposed to be working with and they were not nice people. So I said, what do I do? Do I stay here for 2 years, 3 years until it's okay to leave and it doesn't look bad on the CV? There's a nice little book called The Asshole Factor that also taught me quite a lot. And it's not a popular book in the common sense. It's actually published on the basis of an article in the Harvard Business Review, which is a very respected magazine. And they were actually looking into organizations that are typically known to be quite heavily infested with asshole kind of types. Sorry for the language, but that's the way they write about it. So they were looking into, sorry if some of you are working in that profession, into hospitals, because lots of hospital doctors are quite difficult people to work with. And they were looking into lawyer offices. Also, not always nice people. Not always, you know, some of them can be very nice probably. And they were looking at different kinds of organizations, you know, hospitals that were led by nice guys and hospitals that were led by, you know, defined assholes. And they were looking at, you know, the number of mistakes that were made in these hospitals. And actually they found out that the reported number of mistakes in the treatment of people were lower in the asshole hospitals and higher in the hospitals that were led by people who promoted honesty and openness and things like that. And it's like, oh damn, does, you know, the asshole system work better? And then they looked deeper into it. And it was not that there were less mistakes made in the pressure organization, in the asshole organization. The only difference was that no one was, you know, daring to report mistakes. So there were, you know, lots of mistakes were made in that hospital, actually more than in the nice hospitals. But no one was talking about it, because everybody was afraid to get fired. Now, do you want to work in that kind of organization? No. So it's all about finding the right boss, finding the right environment, and if you progress, you know, creating that environment yourself, which is probably the only really important thing that a boss can do. So I always say, you know, my job in the agency is definitely not to write copy. My job is not to create ideas anymore. I have plenty of people who are supposed to do that. An organization that relies on one person to have all of the great ideas is never going to be a good organization. It's impossible. So I just make sure that all of the people that are working for me have the freedom to express themselves, have the freedom to, you know, have ideas and talk about them and present them. If it's an intern, doesn't matter. I don't care. If it's a good idea, it will be done. It's interesting that, you know, very hierarchical organizations are, you know, even in advertising, you know, the intern has an idea, so he walks to the copywriter. And the copywriter, you know, he has to really think about whether he wants to take this to the CD, you know, and then the CD is like, I don't know, man, is this good enough to take to the CCO? You know, can you imagine how many ideas actually reach the CCO in the end? Like 5% or something like that. And the 95% will probably include a lot of good ideas. So, so you really have to look where you're walking into. You have to really look at who you're working for, and don't have a plan, because a plan will always make you want to stick to the plan, and you're probably not going to be ending up where you should be ending up. Open up, you know, take a look at what's around and feel your way into it. Take a good place rather than a famous place, unless the famous place is a good place. Be very wise about where you go and how you progress. And take it as it comes. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Sure.
У нас есть 10-15 минут на вопросы, потому что я не знаю, помните и нужно ли вам, но рабочее время и все такое. Можете, да, подумать, пока что, типа, на правах модератора. I have first question for you.
Sure.
Having in the background your story, when you're hiring people,
yeah,
how you see like real story and bullshit story?
First of all, I try to avoid doing things that will lead to bullshit. You know, there's these questions that you run across in job interviews, like, you know, what are you bad at? What's your worst trait? You know, and what kind of answer can come up for that? You know these questions, you know? And the answer is, I think I'm a little bit too ambitious. Fuck! I'm sorry, that's stupid, you know? Maybe I work a little bit too much. You know, you are forced to lie. That's bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry, I cannot say how horrible I find this, you know? So I'm not doing that. I don't, you know, and if you know, like my first boss, if they don't know everything there is to know about the company I work for, I'm not mad at them, you know? They are interested in my company. Of course they are. They're sitting right in front of me and they want to work for me, you know? So I should not question their interest in the company. I should not ask them what they're bad at. I should not bring them into situations where they have to lie or bullshit. So, since I mostly hire creative people, there's a very simple rule I have. I don't look at books in interviews. I never do. I mean portfolios. And I just don't. Because I've seen it before. You know, they always send you the book. And that's when I really take time to look at it, to look at every piece of work. And, you know, most of the time I know parts of the stuff that they had done. And I can learn a little bit about, you know, the way that person is thinking. I know the book when I walk into the interview. So I don't, unless I really want to know something specific about a specific piece of work within the book, I don't talk about it. I don't look at it. Because I want to know the person. I want to get to know the person that is going to work for me. Because there's one thing that I will talk about later today, which is a very simple rule. You hire for attitude and you train for skills. Because, you know, you cannot teach somebody a good character. That doesn't work. And I don't want to spend my time working with assholes. I said that already, you know. So all I need to find out is whether this person that I'm talking to, which I know is a good art director or copywriter because I've seen the book before, whether that person adds another dimension to my organization. You know, whether that person brings a new character, a new set of skills, whether that person is able to relate to others in a positive way. Will that person maybe inspire some of the people that I'm already having in my organization to be better creatives? You know, how can I add this person to the organization and add more than just 100% workforce? You know, I mean, count it down to one individual. If I bring that person in, and some of the people that in my organization are improving to work at an even better level, you know, I've hired more than just one person. I've hired new possibilities and new abilities. So I look at the person. Sorry, I'm talking too long for one question already.
Есть вопрос, ребят?
Please.
Okay, I have a question. Did you ever afraid that you going something wrong?
Oh yeah.
And
All the time.
And that mistakes teach you.
We talked about this just before we started here. I have this little book, you know, that I keep carrying around with all of the wisdoms that I collect when I go to school and go through advertising. And one of them is really not business school-like, but it says only the paranoid survive, you know. And I wouldn't call myself paranoid, but I definitely live in fear of fucking up completely. I have had hundreds of days when I went to the agency and I said, I'm gonna get fucking fired today. And yes, of course, you know, with time and when the career progresses, you have more responsibility and the chances to fuck something up are rising. You know, and the magnitude of the mistake that you can make is getting bigger. You know, in the first years I could only fuck up a headline. You know, now I can kill an organization. So yes, there is fear of doing something wrong, but I always will. You know, failing and fucking up and, you know, doing something completely wrong and is part of a good career. You know, I am afraid of people who have never made mistakes because I'm afraid that these people are just like lying. Because everybody's making mistakes. There's no way around it, and you learn as much from mistakes as you do from success. Actually, if you always make everything right, you learn only half of what you can learn. So the other half needs to be failure. The other half needs to be fucking up, running against the wall. Actually, it prevents you also from being too confident about yourself. That's not a very good thing. You know, I remember when I was working for the World Wildlife Fund as, you know, WWF, and we were making a campaign for the Siberian tiger, you know, to save it, because there's not too many of them running around. You know, there used to be politicians chasing them, and now they're trying to save them. That's a good difference. And you know, we were hugely successful with that campaign. And the next thing we did was saving the African forest elephant. You know, it's a small little 2 meter 50 high. It's a very small elephant, and it lives in the woods of central Western Africa. And you know, and we said, we gotta save that elephant, and you know, we did the TVC, and it was a 30-second thing, and it just was one of the worst failures in my life, because no one was giving much money for that elephant. Simply because we did a TVC that didn't give people an impression that they could save that elephant. So we didn't give people like the thing about, you can save the man, you know, you can save the elephant, and it's like, oh yes, 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 where can I put the money, you know? There's a different, you know, so that was a horrible failure, and it cost a few elephants' lives, I guess. I don't know, you know, but well, it happens, you know. Failure is okay. You know, you don't look for it, you know. It's not, I want to fail. No. But you know, you make sure that you know when you fail. You don't make bullshit or lies about it. You take a lesson and you progress. You know, it's like in life. You know these people who always end up with the wrong man or the wrong woman, and you talk to them for nights and nights over and over again, and they always end up still with the same stupid idiot? Don't be such a stupid idiot. You make a mistake, you learn, you make sure that it doesn't happen all too often again after that. Because there's people who don't learn from mistakes. So those people should avoid it. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Do you have a kind of rules to reveal the asshole during the during the interview?
Oh, no, it's difficult. Most of these people are pretty good at not showing it. It's actually they're putting a lot of energy in not revealing themselves as such. But some are relatively easy. You know, there's these very creative advertising agencies, and you know, they will just go straight at you and say, you know, you don't make much money in this place. We work weekends, we work nights, but in the end, you will have the name of our agency in your CV, and it's going to be good for you. And I say, thank you very much, bye-bye, because that's an asshole attitude, you know, and. I don't know, man. I've been running into a few of these guys. Like the guy I was talking about on Marlboro. I don't know if I could have avoided it, because he was very truthful in the first interview. You know, he was talking a lot of interesting and smart stuff, and he was very different from all of the people I've met before. No, I only say, you know, like, look the guys and the girls and whoever you're talking to, look them in the eyes. And, you know, just trust your gut. There is a book called Blink. It's a very, very interesting book about thinking without thinking. You know, it's about looking at something and just, you know, and the blink of an instant, you get a feeling about something. Whether it's right or whether it's not right, whether it's good or not, whether it's true or false, whether it's original or a copy. They were talking about pieces of art, a statue. And they were asking a few people, you know, is this a real statue or is this, you know, a false one? And funnily enough, people were just taking a short look at it and said, I don't know, there's something wrong about it, I cannot put my finger to it. And they were right. And actually those people, you know, after their first initial doubt about it, they were writing pieces of paper about the piece of art saying why it's an original. And it's really interesting. So take a look at it, you know, trust your instinct, trust your gut. If you have a strange feeling about somebody, there is a reason for it. If you like her smile, fine. If other people like her smile as well, even better. So,
talking about the career, you have been working for 15 years, hard working, and then you become a CEO. That's awesome, but what next step?
Maybe there's another piece of advice included in this. I was working at Ogilvy in my first 5 years, and you know, I was still a copywriter, and you know, I was like, when will I be CD? When will I be CD? You know, it's not like I was like you know, jumping for it, but I wanted to progress. You know, I wanted to not be a more powerful person. I wanted to create stuff. I wanted to help other people create stuff. For some reason, I liked that from the very beginning. And my boss always said, man, you started late in advertising. You know, you're already beyond 30. But you still have 35 years of work ahead of you. You know, you gotta make sure that, you know, you take it easy on the way. So, so I try to, you know, take my time to be creative director, take my time to progress to ECD. At least I wanted to. My agency didn't let me. So, but that's another story. Take your time with your career, because it's going to be a very long one. Not all of us are going to be rich enough to retire at 50. I had a pretty good career, but I'm not retired yet. So I probably have to work another 10, 15 years. And I'm actually looking forward to doing that. I'm quite happy about that. And my paranoia sometimes lets me think about, you know, creating my own little agency, because I want to get rid of that paranoia, but I would just trade it for another one. Well, what probably will happen is, you know, you can be a CCO for one office, or you can be a CCO for a bunch of offices. So that's what I'm probably going to look at. I'm going to business school at the same time. I'm doing my MBA, defending my thesis in August. So I'm still a student on at the same time. Well, and after I've finished doing my MBA, I want to do something more, you know, with even more responsibility than I have now. So it's probably going to be responsible for a larger number of countries for the creative product they produce. I was thinking about becoming a CEO, you know, that's why you do business school. If it happens, fine. I don't know. And I don't want to know. I really don't want to know. I mean, I actually don't have a contract to work on as of July 1st. Am I afraid? Nah. I'll be working. It's interesting how, you know, because I'm in a very fortunate situation, I have to say. I trust the guy I work for. I trust the organization that we've built. And I will work. And if for some strange reason I will not be working for McCann in July, I will be successful doing something else. I don't worry.
You have a question here?
Yeah.
Where do you find your inspiration? I mean, it seems that people have already seen everything, and it is very hard to surprise them. Where do you find your new ideas?
Everywhere. The funny thing is, most of the advertising people are not walking around with their eyes open. It's really, really strange how many people in advertising only know advertising. I'm massively... that's probably also true for all kinds of other professions, you know? Doctors know everything about medicine, you know, and maybe about their collection of jazz records at home. But that's basically it. You know, and maybe it's okay for them because that's their profession. In advertising, you better know everything about everything. And if you don't walk around looking at everything and taking it in and trying to get a feeling for things, you will never be successful in this game. Some people stop learning after they go, you know, to work. It's really, really strange. I walk around, I look at everything. I mean, I have a little hard time reading stuff in the Ukraine. Different language, different letters and everything, but I still try to get a feeling for what this place is like. And it teaches me. My inspiration is everywhere. I read so many strange things in strange countries. Like I was once in Amsterdam and there was a graffiti on the wall. That was in 1981, I think. It's probably before you were born, most of you. And there was this huge graffiti on the wall saying, even the banana is just human. You know, it's a horrible translation, you know, but I've always said, man, what kind of mind comes up with something like that, you know? I don't know, it's probably never going to turn into something, you know, but I always kept it in mind, you know, the way people communicate, the way people phrase ideas, the way people express themselves, the way people come towards you. You just take it in, you just take a real good look at things and be interested. inspiration is everywhere. You know, I can walk down on that square and find 1,000 things that are like massively interesting. And yeah, travel, go to places, go, you know, experience things. I mean, this week here is crazy for me, you know, because I've never been to Ukraine, I've never been to Lviv, Lvov, Lemberg, you know, it's even got 3 names, you know. You know, I go to a place that has a coffee mine, which is like, fuck, who came up with this idea? It's great. I come to a place where you have to say something unless, and if you don't say it, you're not going to enter the place, you know. Long live the heroes, you know, and then, yeah, come on in, you know, it's like, okay, that's a pretty nice idea. There is inspiration everywhere. You just pick it up, you know, and actually try to collect it if you can, you know. I have my little book, you know, and I also try to collect, you know, if I don't have the book with me, I always have something, you know. We've got all of these great devices where you can note down things. People, every single one of you is inspiring, thank you. You know, every single one of you is inspiring. The way you ask a question is teaching me something. So there is no lack of inspiration, and people who've already seen everything and know everything. Don't, you know, Picasso once said, you know, what was it? You know, bad artists copy, good artists steal. Everything has been said once before. Everything has been created once before. Every idea has probably been there before. And some people say it's not about creating something completely new, something that has never been there. It's to create something that people think has never been there before. If you do your job wrong, they will say, oh, it's been done before. If you do it well, they say, wow, fuck, great idea. It's the way you do your things that can make the difference between boring and fascinating. So don't be worried about not getting enough inspiration. You take a look at people and you know how to talk to them. Most advertising people don't do this because they're sitting in their cubicles every day until late. They don't go to the movies, they don't go to concerts, they don't go to exhibitions. I was visiting the Art Directors Club exhibition in Hamburg last week, in Germany, and I was just by accident walking along and saw a poster, you know, it said Paul Klee exhibition in the Kunsthaus in Hamburg, and I was like, shit, I gotta go. I like Paul Klee, you know, he's a great painter. It was a special exhibition about paintings about angels, and I loved it because he has a very, very strange way of looking at angels. You know, they're sort of human and they're positive and negative. He has a very, very ambivalent way of looking at angels, and you can learn a lot about angels when you look at the Paul Klee exhibition. Will I ever be able to take this to something and create an idea from it? That's not the reason I'm going. I'm just interested. I take a look, I see how, you know, the way he was thinking, the way he was creating. I take something from it. If I ever will use it, I don't know, but I fed my head. And the more you put in there, the more connections are developing. You know, you put in stuff, you know, you make all of these, you know, that's the brain, it works like that. You put in more stuff, you can create more stuff. The more you see, the more you can create. It's very simple. You sit at your desk all day and look at other people's advertising. How can you create as a cook if you only look at cookbooks? It doesn't work. You got to experiment with this stuff. So yeah, inspiration everywhere. Everywhere.
One more and
Yes,
last
please.
question.
And last one. Thank you very much, first of all, for such
Sure.
a fine story. That was really interesting. And I would like to ask you about the TV show Mad Men. Have you seen it? What do you think about it?
It's very entertaining, of course, and it's interesting to see how advertising was done in the old days. Even though most of the stuff that's in there doesn't really show the reality of it. But I don't have the collection at home, you know, season 1 through 5 zillion. I don't watch it very much, but I appreciate it. Actually, you know, when you see, you know, it's really funny. I guess it's the same for doctors and lawyers and all of these people. You know, if you watch TV, and you're watching some story that is set in your profession. For me, obviously, it's advertising. You know, whenever I see a crime story or whatever, you know, and the main suspect is working in advertising, and you know, so they have all of these scenes in the advertising agencies, and everything I see in there is just like, oh man, this is not anywhere close to what reality is. You know, it's mostly like really shallow crap, and so. It's like a policeman, you know, an inspector, you know, watching a crime, you know. That's not how we do this, you know. And of course it's not, but it's really well done. I can only judge it on the quality of it rather than on the reality of it. But I have to say, very nice story. I was in New York in February for my school. So one of our modules for the school was in New York and in San Francisco. And one of the great experiences in the school is that you have these field days. So you go out and meet people in their organizations. So we went to DDB on Madison Avenue. And they're, you know, in this skyscraper thing that they've always been living in. And it's, we went to the great presentation room, you know. And, you know, it was just, man, this is it. You know, this is probably the last bit of madman reality that still exists, and Bach and all these people, you know. So he's like, hello, you know, you're sort of like, oh, I can't speak, you know. It's like, and he was saying all of these fantastic things, and you know, the presentation room, it was like it was always like that. They never changed anything in it. You know, there wasn't any fancy artwork on the walls. There were boards of their best campaigns of the last 5 zillion years. So it was, you know, it was honest. It was a huge wooden desk, and it's like really dark, low ceiling, and it wasn't very pretty, but it was true. And he was talking things, you know, like the first thing I'm going to say in an hour, like leadership is about inspiring others to do what needs to be done. You know. That's Keith Reinhardt for you, you know, it's like, okay, thank you. So there is a big reality about Madison Avenue still, with some of the people that you can meet in advertising. And I'm thankful for that. One of these people is also Michael Conrad, who used to be the creative chairman for Leo Burnett worldwide. He's the president of my school, you know, so hello, Michael. But now, you know, after a year of school, we're like, you know, taking our wives for dinner. You know, it's like it's nice. I sort of have the feeling of having a tiny little bit of the madman reality in my daily life, and it's fascinating. Great people are always fascinating, and so, you know, again, the more you get around, the more you connect. The more you try to, you know, work for input, you know, the more you get to people that are like massively inspiring, and they don't have to be famous people. You know, well, famous people are assholes. But you know, and sometimes even an intern can be an inspiration. You know, so there's the madman reality, and there's the everyday reality. You know, there's this one world where I love. All of the Keith Reinhardts on the planet, but there's also the wonderful moment of, you know, discovering that the intern that you had brought in like 2 months ago is like this fascinatingly intelligent, smart, and creative person that you can, you know, help develop. That's just as satisfying as hearing smart sentences from madmen.
Thank you, madman.